Come on, Roger, do your thing, baby. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Damn the tall people, right? That's it.
I still look up.
That's right.
I still look up to you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Clif. I'm a grateful alcoholic. I'm sober since August the 15th of 2001, and for that short amount of time, I'm as grateful as I know how to be. I got to tell you, this is one of the best-looking gang of sick people I've seen in some time. I want to give a special thanks to Linda and the committee, particularly to Linda for calling and inviting Lori and I to come be of service this weekend here in Annapolis. I told her when she called, I said, hey, I think we were there just about 4 years ago. And she said, we don't care, come on back. And so apparently she wasn't here that year. And so she said, yeah, she said, I hope you got some new material. I said, you never know. I saw my buddy Jack in the hallway this morning. He said, Cliff, remember to tell the truth. I keep thinking that's varying degrees of rigorous honesty here, But I'm really grateful to be here. I'm really grateful for Jenny last night, kicked us off, did a great job. That was just really good. Adequate presentation of our first three steps. I'm really excited to be here, particularly with my good friend Amy and I have been, and Lori, the three of us have been good friends for many, many years. And what's happened in my relationship with Amy is that over time, she lost her dad several years ago, and over time what has happened is when she finds herself in a spot, which I'm grateful for this, because this is the kind of friendships you make in Alcoholics Anonymous. She'll pick up the phone and she'll say, hey, Cliff, I was thinking about my dad today, or I've got this particular problem and I just don't know what to do. Can we talk about this? I'm her de facto lawyer. She calls me. I used to be the night watchman in my neighborhood. That was an uncompensated position, by the way, and I'm kind of an uncompensated position to be Amy's lawyer, so that's all right too. And with my beautiful wife Lori this weekend, if you are here and you're saying I'm not coming to the Al-Anon talk, you're going to miss a big piece of the puzzle. She may give the best AA talk all weekend. I know that. So, no, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the most honest AA talk this weekend for sure. And I'm particularly excited to be with my friend Ralph today. Ralph and I share the same sponsor. Ralph and I always say that whoever talked to Bob the last is the most spiritual. I'm not sure which one of us today that is, but Ralph's a guy that has molded and shaped my life in Alcoholics Anonymous. And he's taught me how to walk a walk as a real man would, and I'm grateful for you, brother. You're going to come tonight. You'll get the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge for Ralph's talk tonight. So come and you'll throw away the crutches and the canes when this is all over with tonight. You'll be healed, and that's why I love when Ralph's here. The miracles pop out. So. And lastly, I want to talk about the taper just a second because I think it's so vitally important. I know that Linda talked about it in the announcements, but when I was new in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was a guy that needed to be in an AA meeting about 24 hours a day. I don't know about you. And my sponsor plied me with CDs, and he would give me a Ralph W. talk, and he would give me a Bob B. talk and a Steve L. talk, and he just kept me. And if there wasn't somebody who came and recorded our history, what would happen is that would vanish, just vanish. And the people that come behind us would never be afforded the opportunity to share in our rich history that we have here. And people like Roger, who sacrifice their time and get on planes or get in cars and sometimes drive and fly halfway or all across the country, to spend a weekend to record our history that it might be perpetuated from one generation of alcoholics to another. You don't have to buy my CD this weekend, although I'm told it makes a great coaster. I'm really told that. But I'm going to encourage you to go by the desk and buy something, because that piece of Alcoholics Anonymous needs to stay intact. Our history needs to be in so the next generation can have the benefit of what we have all done. So Roger, thank you, my friend, for all you do in AA, buddy. Thank you for that. So my task this morning, is to talk about steps 4 and 5. And tell you a story. There was a farmer, and he found this large egg, and he took it back to his farm where the chickens were, and he put it under a setting hen, and the egg hatched, and it was an eagle. And the eagle grew up around the chickens, and it scratched the ground like the chickens, and it clucked like a chicken. It ate the worms like a chicken. And it just stayed in the farmer's barn. It would flap its wings, and it would fly 20, 30 feet and land back again. And the eagle just grew old, believing he was a chicken. And one day, he was out in the barnyard. He looked up in the air, and there was this, way up in the sky, was this majestic bird with this great wingspan flying. And he looked to the chicken to his left and said, "What is that?" And the chicken looked at him and says, "That's the eagle. It's the king of the sky. We're chickens. We live here on earth." And so the old eagle lived and he died believing he was a chicken. Yeah. Perception can be like that before we get here. Our perception about who we are and what we are can be like that. I can be scratching in the barnyard, clucking, believing I'm a chicken. What Alcoholics Anonymous has done for a guy like me, it has been able for me to see exactly who and what I am. My perception seems to be my biggest problem before coming down, because I see everything through a prism of self. Everything I see, everything I look at, everything I analyze, how I filter it comes through this prism of self. And everything is about how it affects me. I have this fundamental belief that alcoholics, perhaps, not necessarily, but perhaps because our book tells us, we're the extreme example of self-will run riot, although we usually don't think so. We're the only people that somebody can die, they can plan a funeral, and that's inconvenient for us, right? I don't know why they had to have it today, mowing my yard, right? I don't know why they did that. I can't go. Yeah? Got underwear drawers to straighten up. It's everything through this prism of self, our perception of who we are, what we are. People generally, I believe, my experience has been, people are generally looking for 3 things: identity, community, and purpose. I mean, I just think that's generally what happens to people when they arrive on this planet. We're looking fundamentally for those 3 things. Some sense of who am I, some sense of community, and some purpose to fill our lives. I think that's the human nature. Alcoholics have this we're extreme in everything we do, aren't we? Right? And we come here with this fundamental idea. I don't know where this comes for us. Our good friend Larcene, a great member of the Al-Anon family group out in California, she says, information floats through the universe, lands on my head, and I begin to take action on it like it's the truth, you know. And we have this, I have, and maybe you do too, I have this perception that I'm separated from you, that I'm separated from God. And there's some truth about that in reality, because I'm separated from God and you on self-will. The reality and the truth is that I'm not separated from you. The truth and reality of it is that I'm not separated from God. Our textbook tells us, Wilson writes, that deep down inside every man, woman, and child is this fundamental idea of God. So the truth is I'm not separated, but yet my perception and my reality is that I am. Walking into kindergarten and look at all those kids and those little tables, they pop their heads up, and immediately I feel separated. It's as if they know all the answers to all the questions, and I don't know what book they're reading out of. I've got a 100-piece puzzle set, and I'm missing one piece. It's that idea of separateness. This idea of community, you know. I think a big piece of the puzzle for a guy like me is I've been looking where I fit. Where do I fit? You know, growing up, there's all these different people that circulate my life. You know, when I'm in school, there's the really cool kids, there's the rich kids, there's the stoners, there's the jocks, there's the nerds. I don't know where I fit, but I can become a chameleon and be piece of all those, wherever I am at the moment. So I will seek community on a level because of my need, my separateness, this internal condition of separateness. I will seek whatever to feel a part of, right? And this idea of purpose, I think, for alcoholics is the hardest piece for us to put together in active alcoholism because I can't find a purpose in my life. Matter of fact, Silkworth says that this alcoholic life that I have become, that I'm living in, seems the only normal one. Right? And so suddenly my purpose is to exist and die. My purpose is to just try to make it through another day. Let me just try to get through the day. And I think what happens for people like us, when grace falls on us and somebody crawls through the window and grabs us and transmits a beneficial message to us, and somebody who's really practicing their 12th step, while we're trying to figure out what step 0 is all about, right? They crawl through the window of grace and they grab us and they pull us through, and something happens to us. In a moment in time when God cracks our hearts, we stand in that crevice and suddenly we see ourselves for exactly who we are in that moment. And what happens for us is they bring us here. I was talking to Amy last night. We were visiting and we were talking about Alcoholics Anonymous. I said, well, Amy, if you're here, there's nowhere that we have to refer you down to. This is it. If you're here and you're alcoholic, welcome. Got good news and bad news. Good news, these are all your new best friends. Bad news, these are all your new best friends. But somebody drags us to Alcoholics Anonymous and we begin to have this shift. Junior laid that out for us last night. We get here and we begin to recognize some things, maybe for the very first time in our life. Certainly for me, when my sponsor sat down with me and started beginning to talk to me about step 3, and I began to look at my life, I think step 3 is the piece of the puzzle where we finally begin to get some perception other than through the prism of self. We get some realization about exactly who I am. And I get to see, this idea that maybe it's more than the booze. I often say that Alcoholics Anonymous is the greatest bait and switch program ever invented. It really is, man. Because everybody says, you need to go to AA. You got a drinking problem, right? Come to AA, boy, they say here, oh, you don't have a drinking problem. You got a drinking solution, right? Because the drinking solution eases all that separateness I feel. The restless, irritable discontentedness, which I have kind of boiled down and looked at and really taken a perspective look at my life. It doesn't seem like it's, we talk about, Silkworth put the word on it, restless, irritable, discontent. Wilson said we're bedeviled people. Talked about the bedevilments, flushed it out a little better. It seems to me, if I really look at my life, it's like a longing I'm trying to find. I'm seeking it, I don't even know I'm seeking. I'm moving, and I'm longing for something. Creates this irritability, the spiritual malady creates all that. I'm seeking something, but I don't know where. I'm hopping from group to group, trying to find community. I'm adrift. But the perspective begins to come for me when I see clarity in step 3, really. Because it's very necessary for a guy like me to have clarity in 3 in order for me to have a fundamental different experience in 4 and 5. If I don't see some clarity in 3, I'm going to struggle in 4 and 5 because our book tells us, we're building a foundation. We're building an arch which you're going to walk. And if the 3 is all goofy for me, I'm going to be goofy on everything else. 3 talks about this idea of who I believe I am. The perception of my life, who I think I am. More importantly, I think what you think I am. To get really crazy, who I think you think I am. Just go chase myself down that rabbit hole, right? And most of my life is wrapped up back to my friend Jack this morning because he's heard me tell this story several times. How I view myself and how I interact with the world. I could be walking down the street and I'm in a hurry and I see Jack and he's in a big hurry, and as he's coming by me, he says, "Hey, Clif, nice tie," and he's off. And in my brain, I immediately think this: what the hell did he mean, nice tie? What are he talking about, man? What the hell's Jack mean by that nice tie? I spend the next 4.5 weeks plotting Jack's death. I come up with 822 scenarios with mine and Jack's next interaction, right? I mean, the brainstorm goes, right? And I create this resentment, and I keep going over and over and over it, right? And here it is, 5 weeks later, Jack, I see him on the street again, and I'm ready. 822 combinations of how this is going to play out this time, right? And Jack comes up to me and says, "Hey, Clif, the other day I saw you on the street. We were both in a hurry. Your tie, you know how my brother loves your ties? He's always complimenting your ties. Where did you get that? I need to get him one of those just like that." Well, I got nothing for that, quite frankly. That was not in the 822 repertoire. So it's my perception of life. It's how I view things, everything through the prism of self. How it affects me. How does this look on me? And the reality is that in step 3, it talks about this idea that how I see things is because I want to control the outcome. I'll just make it really, really simple for you. I'll use my friend Jenny since she's new and doesn't know me that well. That will change soon. Because I heard her story last night, so it will be beautiful. It'll fit just perfect, right? So this is the deal. So I meet Jenny in our younger days. It wouldn't really matter whether I was single or not, but in my younger days, because when I drink, I suffer from matrimonia amnesia sometimes. And listen to her story. I think she may too. I don't know, but I meet Jenny, and if you can identify with this, great, because it's our life. It's certainly my life. I meet Jenny, man, she's really cute, and within the first 7.5 seconds, I have our whole life planned out. In 7.5 seconds, I've got the house, the white picket fence, the 2.5 kids. I've got it. And in 7.5 seconds, I can see us growing old together, right? I mean, I get it. And so like any good alcoholic, I take Jenny hostage, right? I just take her, we kidnap her, right? And go underground, because that's what we do here. We just disappear from society. But eventually we got to come back, right? In about 60 days, you pop back up into life. And I begin to notice some things about Jenny. Right? The first thing I notice is we're in a room like this, she doesn't stand as close to me as the role calls for. Because I have assigned her a role. Don't be mistaken about that. I've assigned her a role, and in my head, I can tell you how that relationship is to look. Now, I don't tell Jenny. You know why? She's supposed to know. She's supposed to know. And so what I begin to notice is that when we're in a room like this, she doesn't stand as close to me as the role calls for. And if we took all the other ladies out of the room, because I know there's some Al-Anons in here, that's why I use the word lady. So anyway, please, don't get all self-righteous suddenly, right? I've heard your stories too, right? I notice if there are just guys in the room, she doesn't take my hand as quickly as the role calls for. And as Wilson so adequately describes in our book, I'll try to help her. I'll be gracious, kind to get her to move where I need her to move. Or I can be just a jerk to get her to move where I need her to move. But eventually what happens is Jenny begins to lose her star power, you know. I thought she was Miss Right. Apparently she's just Miss Right now. That's the deal, you know. Because she doesn't get it. She just doesn't get it. She doesn't follow the script. Now, she doesn't know there's a script, but she doesn't follow it. Right? She should just know, because this is what it looks like to love me. This is how it looks to love me. And I'm going to guarantee it. I'd almost bet my whole sobriety that the men and women in this room have said something like this to their partners at the moment. If you love me, you'd. We want it to be contractual in nature. If you love me, you'd do. Right? You'd show me, because you need to prove to me that you love me, because I have that longing and I'm never sure. Right? So she loses her star power. I'll start interviewing understudies. So she finds out about it. She's none too happy, and rightly so. And she says, I'm out of here. And you know what I say? Good. Good. You know why? She doesn't get it. She doesn't get it. She doesn't know how to follow the role. Because if she did, she'd. Then this thought comes to me. This might be a mind blower for some of you people in here today. Here's the thought. I'm going to be alone the rest of my life. You laugh because you've had that thought. Right? That terrifies people like us. That is terrifying. And my life is a cycle of that. I'll make amends later. My life is a cycle of that. And it's easy to see in our romantic relationships. But I can take that scenario and lay it to my mom and dad, and it's exactly the same. Now, I've never been a kid, and I've never been parented, but I can tell you how you should parent me. Right? Right? I did that with my brother. I've never had a brother but one, and my experience is only with that one. But if he was really my brother, he would be my brother like this. It would look like this. With my friends, I never really had many friends, but if I did have them, you'd look like this. Right? And I script everything for you people. You never follow up and see. My problem really is, I think if I can manage and control, my life will be okay. If I can get the outsides to be all right, I'll be okay. And if I can see that, step 4 and 5 is a breeze. Right? I can tell you how long it takes to do a 4-step, 3 months, 3 hours, and 21 minutes. That's how long it takes, right? Just does. Emphasis on the 3 hours and 21 minutes, right? Because we are dominated by the 3 P's, right? Perfectionism, procrastination, and paralysis. Right? It's got to be perfect, right? That's what we tell ourselves, because what we do finally, because we see things through the prism of self. I need to do this perfectly. That's my assignment, to do it perfectly, right? And the truth of the matter is, it just needs to be the best I can do. If we took a big piece of plywood and we went out here and we found us a grassy field, and we took a 10 by 10 piece of plywood and we anchored it down, right now, just anchored it down. And here comes all the spring rains, right? The sunshine comes out, and about 1st of June, we would go out. Well, let's just say June 10th. That's a pretty good day in AA, right? Let's say on June 10th, we went out and we pulled up the plywood off of that one patch on this big field. You know what we would find under that patch? Dead grass. Dead grass. It's blocked off from the rain, the sun. It's blocked off from the nutrients that come. Just be blocked off, and it would be dead. But if we allow that grass to have sunshine and more rain, what will happen? It will come back. It will grow back. And that's what step 4 does for us. It peels back the plywood that we've anchored on ourselves through resentments, through fears, through bad sex conduct, just bad conduct to others. And through the lens of step 3, for the very first time, perhaps, I get to see a different perspective on my life. When Don said, my old sponsor, Don, when he sat me down and walked me through step 3, and I got real clarity about my life. When we get to step 4, if you can see that, if you can help us, a new person on step 4, see the clarity of their life, walk them through the exercise of self. You know, suddenly what it says on in our book, it says bottles are just a symbol. the biggest bait and switch program has taken full effect, right? Because it's never really been about the drinking. The drinking's been a piece about how I try to get some part to feel part of, that I'm trying to patch over the longing that I've got. I don't know the fact that I'm allergic to it, what I take. What works for me, I don't know that I have an allergy to that. What works for me, I don't know that it triggers this obsession of the mind driven by the spiritual malady. And I'm in this eternal loop of obsession, spree, remorse, repeat that I can't break out of. Right? And in step 4, what it allows me to do for the very first time is take a look at those relationships in my life, okay, and put them on paper. Now, if you're like me, I have done hundreds of 4 and 5s, mostly in bars. And I'm hell on wheels in the first 3 columns. I can tell you exactly who's wronged me. Before I ever came to AA, if you just ply me with a little whiskey and some Bolivian marching powder, I'm going to tell you everything, man. You're going to get the whole package, right? I got a lot of information I need to share. I'm going to tell you who it was, what they did, what it affected. And the 4th column is what I'm going to do to get even. That's the 4th column, right? Not just even, more. Because I don't believe in even. I believe in retribution. That's what I believe in, man. So when we come here and people say I've got difficulty on step 4, I can't identify with that because I knew everybody. I knew everybody. This is no mystery. And I'm sure that some of you good people have heard people say this in AA meetings. Newcomers, I'm really afraid of the 4th step, right? Scares me. And my first thought is, hell, I don't know why you were there for all of it. I don't know why. Suddenly, what is that, right? Like you're going to discover something new? I just take them to the book and show them that piece where it says, hey, if you don't do this, you might die. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's what our textbook talks about. It says, hey, if you don't do this vital step, you might die. Kills us like 4 or 5, 6 times in that couple paragraphs there. I just take them to that and say, well, tell me in here, show me here, not to be derogatory towards them, but to be helpful. And not in a vile way, but to say, hey, look, I get what you're saying. Because you're not thinking about 4, you're thinking about 5. That's what you're thinking about. It's like step 8. You start worrying about step 9 when you're trying to do step 8. We always get fearful of the action step ahead of us, right? But this is just people that, people, places, principles that I'm angry with. And I knew them all. Every one of them. And the book just invites us to put those on paper. That's the only difference. I'm not telling you in the bar. I'm just putting it on paper, maybe for the very first time. And I'm going to talk about what they did, which ought to be the easiest thing on earth, right? One of the things I discovered when I started writing about what people had done to me was I discovered that I had told the story so long I believed it. And a great majority of what I'm angry about in my life was the Jack example. That people really hadn't done anything to me, but my perception of what they did to me. And I'm not certainly discounting people who have had bad things happen to them. Not at all. Because there are people in AA that have bad things happen to them that they're totally innocent of. But what I discovered for me, that is a lot of the things in my life, because I see things through the prism of self, that I have operated my whole life on this basis of self. That when I begin to write things down and look at it and analyze it, how I saw it at the time, who am I mad at? My dad. What did he do? Never let me have fun, never let me go out, never made me work when my friends were going out to play. What did that affect? Everything. It affected everything. What was my part? No. Because it doesn't say that. Because the step doesn't say what's my part. It doesn't say that. But you'll hear in AA, What was my part? You tell us somebody who's been a victim of child molestation, what's your part? They don't have one. They're innocent children. They don't have a part, but they may have a mistake. And the mistake is I let them do it in my mind over and over and over. So I have to be clear about what our instructions is in our textbook. I need to be clear about what they, but when I begin to write people's names down, like my dad, and what he did, my perception of what he did, and what it affected, then suddenly what I do based on my education of step 3, the book tells me I begin to look at our relationship from an entirely different angle. And when I began to do that, what I began to see about my dad was he was a guy that only wanted the best for me. He only wanted the best for me. As every parent does, we only want better for our children than we had it ourselves. If you've got kids, you know that's true. And I started looking at my dad differently through a process of just understanding my relationship with him, mostly my perspective of him, through this prism of self, this interaction that I was having with him and every person in my life that I was mad at, which was just damn near everybody I came in contact with, because they don't do the role right. You don't follow the script that I have not told you about. And when I began to see things that way, what happens is everything changes. You know, the greatest promise for us, I believe, in Alcoholics Anonymous comes to us in step 12 when it talks about that we have, as a result of these steps, we have this spiritual awakening. But the eyes begin to crack open, the eyes of the soul begin to crack open for us as we move through the steps. We become spiritually awake through this whole process. And I get this glimpse of how I was and how I can be going forward. I can see the fatality of my actions, the fatal nature of alcoholism, the number one offender, resentments. And looking at those resentments in my life, it's like poison running in me. I'm convinced one of the greatest benefits of step 4 for me when I was putting pen to paper was being able to see these relationships for what they were and offer forgiveness. Because forgiveness isn't about setting that person free. It's about setting me free. There's a story of the two Holocaust survivors walking down the street one day. And one says to the other, "Do you ever think about the camps? Do you ever think about the camps?" He says, "Every day." He says, "So they still have you. They still have you." Yeah. This is about freedom. This is about forgiveness and freedom and moving through my life with a new perspective, a new take on life for me. I have a friend, Jim. He tells a story about on the last night of his drinking. He had a friend who had a house that was a rent house, and he was trying to break into it, and he couldn't get into it, so he was able to break into the garage. And he just went to sleep on the floor, and his prayer that night, he says, before he went to sleep was, "God, just don't let me wake up tomorrow." And maybe some of you, I certainly have had prayers like that. Don't let me wake up tomorrow. Well, of course, the next morning, the guy was showing the house, of course. And he opens the garage door, and there's Jim asleep on the floor, and he says, "This one comes with a night watchman." And and Jim woke up that morning, and the guy said, "You can stay here at my house, but you got to go to AA." And Jim went to AA. He's been sober ever since. So the truth is the prayer worked. Somebody different woke up the next morning. That Jim died, and a new Jim woke up. That's what I believe happens for us here. We begin to see ourselves in step 4 to allow that old person to die. Right? If you ever notice in our book, it never talks about surrender. It uses some catchwords like that. It talks about capitulate, which is a synonym for surrender. But it uses another really powerful word that perhaps you've never thought about. It calls for us to abandon ourselves to God. You ever think about what really abandonment means? What does that really mean to a person like me? I'm going to give you the perfect example. Of course, you need to know that I fall way short of this. But the idea of abandonment is if I take an old junker car to the junkyard and I leave it, I abandon it, you think I'm coming back for it? No. See, this is what God calls for us to do. To abandon ourselves to God. I'm leaving self with God. I ain't coming back for it. I'll come back for it all the time. I will come back for it. The perfect idea is to abandon ourselves. Leave self here. Abandon it to God. Let Him do it. Why? Because He's my new director, right? It's when we talk about spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection, the most misquoted piece of our book, I think. Because how many times you talk to somebody, how are you on that 4-step? Well, I'm coming along. You know, it's progress, not perfection, right? No. Spiritual progress. I'm here to make spiritual progress here. Where am I headed? I'm headed in step 10 to the world of the Spirit. I have to live in this world, but I'm headed somewhere else. 4-step clears that out. It peels back the wood of my life. It opens up the past. I'm a guy that believes that the day that I was born, it's like a shaft of light, me and God. Closest I've ever been to God. Express delivery, right? Shaft of light. What happens to a guy like me? I begin to have all these thoughts of separateness. You know, I become separated from you and God on self-will, although I don't know that. Right? The ego takes over. I construct this ego that wants to be God in my life, that wants to tell me these things. And I construct this, and what happens slowly but surely because of resentments, because I cried and they didn't feed me when I wanted to be fed, I'm angry at them. And so the ego begins to construct itself, and through resentments and fears, I begin to block off the shaft of light between me and God. And just like the 10 by 10 piece of plywood we put on the grass, what happens? My spirit begins to die. My spirit begins to die. And in the 4-step, what we do is we begin to examine these things in my life to begin to peel the wood back. And what happens? The light begins to come through again. And the spring rains come. And the nutrients in my life come back because I'm now trying to get to the world of the Spirit. I'm beginning to have an awakening, and I want the light in my life. Right? I think the thirst for God, as it was said by Carl Jung in 1960 when he wrote his letter to Bill Wilson, when Wilson wrote him and said, "Hey, Dr. Jung, you may remember Roland Hazard. You know, you treated him, and we found, based on that conversation and conversations of others, Alcoholics Anonymous Board, we kind of see you as a co-founder of that. You may not remember Roland." And he writes back and says, "Oh, yeah, I remember Roland." How could you forget him, really? And he talked about that this thirst for alcohol is like a thirst for God. It's about spiritus contra spiritum, spirit versus spirit, whiskey versus God. This unlatching of the wood that's covered our lives, you know. I hear it in AA sometimes, and I certainly don't have any disagreement with this. And please, if this is your belief, I'm not throwing darts at it. And I used to believe this, but I've changed my perspective on it. As look back at 24 years in sobriety, I've changed some perspectives of my life going through here. You know, things I thought were true. You know, when I came to AA, I was 100% on everything I believed, right? I'm about 0.5% on everything I believe today, right? I'm not sure about damn near anything. Right? But looking at this stuff in my life, these ideas that I have when I get here, the belief system that I bring into Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, the book talks about in step 4 is that we examine our principles. When I have men that I sponsor, and I get guys that may have 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I sponsor a guy that's got 40-something years up in Wisconsin. When they come to me and they talk to me about the problems of their life, what's going on right now, what I invariably do with them is I ask them, have you ever done a principle inventory? Have you really ever looked at the old ideas? Because that's all a principle is. It's just some old idea I'm hanging on to. Have you ever looked at the old idea, the principles that govern your life? Have you ever looked at those? And I'll give you a real fundamental example. I think a lot of the guys here may identify with that. One of the old ideas I had in my life was men don't cry. I don't know where that came from. I think I do. I think my dad one day said to me, if you don't stop that, I'm going to give you something to cry about. Right? Every guy in the room going, oh, hell yeah. That's me. So what happens to me? The ego forms an idea. Men don't cry. Okay? First time in an AA meeting, this guy starts blubbering. I'm really uncomfortable. I'm really uncomfortable. Now I'm like waterworks. I just let it flow, man. I'm good with it today. But have I ever looked at the things in my life that drive me, that I fundamentally believe in, that govern my life, like men don't cry? And the first thing I have them do, and some of the guy, my buddy Lucas is here today, who I sponsor, by the way. Lucas, 6 months from liver transplant. Brother, we love you. I'm so glad you're here today, man. Thanks, man. Yeah. I've been sponsored. He's from Townsend, Maryland. I've been sponsoring Lucas for 10 years, and he's just a treasure in my life. And, man, we're all so grateful when he started getting sick a few years ago. We just was, and somebody stepped up and said, I'll give him a piece of my liver, and here he is today, man. That's just beautiful, brother. But but one of the things that Lucas and I did at 5 years sobriety, he was just insane. And, I wish I could tell you it was otherwise. He just wasn't drinking, right? But one of the first things I had him do was, have you ever done a principle inventory? Have you ever looked at what's governed your lives? And he said no, and so we sat down with him. That was his task. I said, we're going to do a full 4-step, but we're also going to do a principle. We're going to break it out separately. We're not just going to do something I'm angry at. We're going to look at all of them, the things that really govern my life. And doing that, what happened is Lucas got set free from all that stuff. And if you've never done a principle inventory, if you've never looked at those things specifically, what is it that's running my life? What are the old ideas in my head that's driving the train? I would encourage you to do that. Bruce and I have talked about that many times when we've been together at conferences. They talked about this principle inventory, these things that are governing my life. Break it out as a separate inventory. It's just beautiful. So I did this inventory to the best of my ability. I think it's, again, so the 3 Ps. I can get so hung up on just being perfect. And being perfect will cause me to procrastinate. I'm thinking about it, right? I'm really thinking. I'm really working on it, right? What I am, I'm focusing on me. That's all I'm doing. I'm wanting it to be perfect. I'm focusing on me again. And that just brings paralysis. I can't move. I'm a lawyer by profession. I'm a bankruptcy lawyer. People come to me all the time broken. Just broken. Single moms trying to figure out how to do it with 2 kids, the first thing I tell them, I let them tell me their story. First thing I tell them, because they never hear it, you're doing a really good job. You're doing a really good job. Because they're broken, and I can identify with broken. I don't have to have that experience to understand brokenness. Right? And they need to hear that. You've been doing a really good job, and you've been fighting a really good fight. But here we are. Right? This is the day we don't throw this towel in one string at a time. We just toss it all in. Right? This is the deal. Right? This is not define you. It's not who you are. It's about just what happened. Right? It's the same here for us. It doesn't define us. The fact that we're alcoholic, it has some definition for us. But you know what it does for people like us if we make it to AA? It gives us the circumference of the 3 things I first talked about. It gives us identity, it gives us community, and it gives us purpose. Right? We come here and we sit in a chair for the first time. We say, I'm Clif, I'm alcoholic. Suddenly, I have some identity in the world. Right? I know where I fit. Our friend Paul says, when I come to AA and I say I'm Paul and I'm an alcoholic, there's some things that resonate with me. I know who I am, where I am, and what I need to be doing. Right? So to be identified as an alcoholic, come here, suddenly I have some identity. Now I can get about the business of figuring out what that is. And you get this, I got this community. I didn't want you, but I got it. That's the deal. Alcoholics, the upper crust of the mentally ill. That's the deal here. If you've ever, by the way, this committee's done a great job this weekend. It's just been great. So, if you've ever worked in service, they're not in the upper crust, by the way. They're more down in the pudding. They're not in the upper crust. So. Service work in AA is a lot like a professional football game. You ever notice that? Yeah. 22 people on the field in dire need of rest. 80,000 in the stands, dire need of exercise. That's how that works. That's service work in Alcoholics Anonymous, But I get this community, whether I want it or not. And over time, the fellowship has become so vitally important to me. I think early on what it becomes is the handrails we hang on to as we take the steps. It gives us this community, encourages us. My sponsor was the biggest cheerleader I had. Absolute biggest cheerleader I ever had. As I took the steps, he introduced me to people that showed me a different way of life. And I get some purpose here. I think the steps, when we peel back and see who ourselves for the first time, I see all this selfishness, self-centeredness, all these fears that have dominated. I would have told you before I came to AA, I'm not afraid of anything. Truth is, I'm afraid of everything. But here's the truth about it today. I'm not afraid of you people today. I'm not afraid of you because you cannot hurt me today. You cannot hurt me. And I used to be terrified of you because if you looked at me wrong, if you didn't like my tie, if you made some innocent remark, the prism of self would twist it into you were putting me down, But I'm not afraid of you today because it's not personal with me anymore. If you're having a bad day, I might just happen to be in your blast radius, but it ain't about me, right? It's just not about me today. And that's one of the great things I think of going through this 4-step, identifying these fears, that I figure out that, the real fundamental problem, it's a good thing it's an open book test because it just tells us, hey, isn't it because self-reliance failed us? We'll come up with all these great scenarios. You have guys, great deals about why they're afraid. Let's just look at the book, pal. Let's just see what it says, right? Did you read this book? I'm not sure, but we fail to rely on God. And I don't care how long you're sober, I can be victim of that. I can be victim of low-grade atheism in a heartbeat, right? That this is the day. This is the day. Although God pulled me out of the toilet, I believe today he's going to drown me in the ocean, right? That's the belief I have as an alcoholic. Of all the evidence in my life, wherever you are on the sobriety trail, I believe this. You can be 40, 45 years sober, low-grade atheism can hit you like that and think, this is the day. Right? This is the day. And that is an unfounded fear based on the evidence of my life. Based on the evidence of my life, looking back before I ever came to Alcoholics Anonymous, man, God was watching out for me. God was taking care of me. But I can't see that, right? Because I'm caught up in the prism of self. But in the 4-step, I began to, when I really analyze these fears, I get really some meat on the bone about what's going on in my life. That's just still me. It's still me, that I'm still trying to run the show, that I want to control the outcomes. I need to know the answers to the questions. And what I know about today is a lot like Alcoholics Anonymous, God is experiential. The book tells me, and we agnostics, I can neither comprehend nor define that which is God. I don't have the ability to do that. None of us do. And so therefore, for me to try that is a worthless experiment. But what I can do is experience God like I experience AA. As I experience AA, I can read about the steps in this book, and I can have a lot of knowledge about them. But when I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, the steps come alive for me. Why? Because I see them working in your life. You come in and share about a step 4 or step 5 experience, I can identify that. That's what they're talking about. You ever had that experience where you're reading the book and you say, my God, gnomes have snuck in at night and they've written stuff in my book that wasn't there. Just yesterday it wasn't there. It's more spiritually awake today than I was yesterday. I'm in a spiritual place where today it makes sense. I'm further down the path. If I can keep those kind of perspectives in my life, then I can fully rely on God. But the truth is I'm human. By human conditions, coupled with my alcoholism, I become low-grade atheist at any given moment, right? And what I need to do is fundamentally always remember God's in charge, Amy, right? That's what we know. That's what we know. I looked at this sex conduct in my life, and we sometimes think about this idea of, we don't talk about it enough in AA, quite frankly, I don't think. This is not about the conquest, what I did, all that. It's about why. Why? The fundamental questions they ask us in our life, was it selfish? Yes. Every time it was selfish, right? Well, just ask the questions. Answer the questions. This isn't about all that stuff. It's about me. This is an examination of me, once again, of self. I'm separated, and I need to feel something. I need to change the way I feel. Right? And if I have sex with you, if I can con her into having sex, for a moment, I'll have some connection, and I'll feel better. Right? And we go through these questions in the book out. Yes, 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 right? And then we get to this harms for others. When I got to the harms for others in my 4-step, I had forgotten about the 3 ex-wives' families. Because I just leave. I'm a runner. I just disappear. Right? I go what the book calls at large. That's what I do. And you know who's there to clean up the mess? Their families. Their moms, their dads, their brothers. And I got some clear direction on all that. Really clear direction about all that. My first wife, Jackie, who we're good. I made amends to her and we're all good. But her sister, who I was friends with, her sister, it took her like 16 years to listen to the amends. 16 years to hear the amends. And it was a piece of watching me for 16 years to believe that I was different, that it wasn't the long con. Because there's some people believe it's the long con. Right? There's an angle, he's got an angle and he's angling for it. Right? I sat down to do my 5th step with a guy that by the name of Judd. It was really cool. Earlier this year in January, I went out to California to give a talk to a group out there. And there was a lady at this group, and she came up to me. She said, I'm glad that you're here. I'm from Oklahoma. And I said, and she looked vaguely familiar. And I said, well, no, it's not that. Although I did hear Jenny say last night that I haven't had sex with any of you. I can't make that assurance. I got to tell you, I was a blackout drinker, so I don't know. I could owe an amends here. I'm not sure, but somebody told me, I was telling some guy one time that Don and I, when we did the 3rd step prayer, we got down on our knees. I said, listen, to the best of my knowledge, that's the first time I was ever on my knees with another man. But I was a blackout drinker, so I'm not sure about that either. So. Just being honest, I don't know. Right? Anyway, just saying. Right? I don't have that much clarity, Jenny. I wish I did. It's just skin. Anyway, so this lady, and she looks vaguely familiar, and we get to talking. She said, yeah, I grew up in Oklahoma City, and my dad was in AA. My stepdad was in AA. And I get to listen. I said, well, who was your stepdad? And she says, a guy named Judd. And I said, he heard my 5th step. He's the guy that heard my 5th step and set me free. It was so funny. We got to talking. Her mom went on a trip with Lori and I and some others 12, 15 years ago to Wyoming. spent a whole week with her, and I just, But Judd, I went down to Judd's house to do the fifth step, and when I walked in, Judd said, "Hey, Clif, this is great. I'm here, you're here. Let's get God here." Because the step calls about admitting to God, to yourself, and to another human being. We're here, let's get God here. And he prayed. And a piece of what he prayed is that God would give me the courage to say the things that I need to say to get free. And that God would give him the wisdom to impart to me anything needed to be imparted to help me be free. And he said, "Hey, Clif, look, I know there's stuff on that list that you have not written down or it's in code." And there was, right? Because it could fall in enemy hands. It's a bad deal. So that's And he says, "So let me tell you some stories." And so he just started telling me some stuff. And he got done telling me, he said, "These are the things that paralyzed me before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. It kept me out forever. It's paralyzed me." He says, "So let's just lead with the stuff in code, and let's lead with the stuff you didn't write down. Because if you can do that, man, everything else will be a cakewalk." Our book talks about in step 3, we come to this turning point. We stood at the turning point. We get lots of turning points in AA. It's a crossroads, really. In this moment with Judd, I'm at a crossroads. I'd read that piece in our literature which says, "Hey, if you don't do this, you could drink again. And if you don't tell all the bedwetting and the booger eating right here, right? I mean, right here, you may have not done a proper house clean." Man. And I had that reflection, that moment of clarity once again. And I just said, "Here it is." And I just laid it out. And I was terrified. Terrified because, the ego. "Oh, you don't need to tell that. You don't need to say that. Don't talk about that. They don't want to hear that. What will he think of you?" Right? For some reason, I just shut that down and told him the things that either weren't on there or were in code. And Judd looked at me. He sat so kindly, and Judd was he was a giant of a man, gentle man. And he looked at me and he said, "I love you anyway." Man, and I got free, and everything else was a cakewalk, As I began to move through step 5 with Judd and tell him I began to realize how damn petty am I, right? I mean, how petty am I really in my life? How petty am I? And we got done, and I don't know how long it took. I sat with Judd and I shared that with him, but I got free. I got free on that day. And that's not to say that I haven't tried to clog the channel up as I've moved through my sobriety, and that's what step 10 is about. I think Amy's going to talk about that. I've restacked stuff, and I forgot to say, I was going to this point earlier in the five. I forgot, so I'm going to do it now. I've said this in AA, there's a hole in my soul. And I don't believe that's true for me anymore. It looks like a hole because I've stacked all this crap and it's a shadow. Because the fundamental idea of God resides in me. But when I begin to unstack all this stuff, it's not a hole, it's a shadow that I've just blocked God off. Right? So I have stopped saying that. I've got a hole in my soul. No, I have a shadow with crap that's blocking me from God. Right? Step 4 and 5 clear that out for me. And they allow me to be the person I believe, to move through the rest of the steps, to be the person God always intended me to be. Close with this story. There was a lion cub. And the lion cub, his mother was killed by hunters. And there was a flock of sheep, and they took the lion cub in. So the lion cub, what we'll call the sheep lion, grew up believing he was a sheep. He bleated like a sheep. He grazed like a sheep. Right? Played with the sheep. Then one day, another lion came along, and he saw the sheep lion. And he said, "What are you doing here among these sheep?" He goes, "I am a sheep." He said, "Come with me." And the lion took the sheep lion down to the stream. And he said, "Look in there." And the sheep lion looked at the spring and saw who he really was, and he roared, and he knew who he was. From that moment on, he lived as a lion. Thanks for having me.